Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. And if you are a new listener or viewer, welcome to you, of course. Um, I would like to go over an email here from a Chilean who I just connected with really a couple of hours ago. And he has a concern about fatal insomnia, which I'm realizing so many people have, and we're gonna talk about his message to me here, and I'm gonna answer all of his questions hopefully. And before we do, as always, nothing here is medical advice to anyone, but just general thoughts and comments that I hope will be helpful, really. So that said, let's get right to it. So I'm going to start reading here. Hi, Daniel. It's Cillian. I left a comment on one of your fatal insomnia videos recently. Hope you remember me. Yes, I do. I remember that comment. I'm grateful for all of them. Okay, continue to read here. Anyway, I know that as a physician you are busy, but I'm reaching out to you in desperation. I really feel horrible lately because of some chronic insomnia I've been having. Brief history. It all started on January 22nd. I fell asleep at 1 a.m., which was normal for me back then, but I suddenly awoke at 3 a.m., which was highly abnormal for me, and my sleeping has been messed up ever since. For the past 2 months, my sleep is constantly interrupted anywhere between 90 minutes to 3 hours or so. Usually it's 2 hours though. I've started going to bed at 9 p.m. and trying to get up at 5 or 6 a.m., but this has been all over the place. I usually do not have any trouble falling asleep, but by the second time I wake up, I usually have to pee really bad, or I can't fall back asleep for quite some time, or sometimes not at all. I was taking Zopiclone for a while and it helped a little bit, but I still woke up every 2 hours or so. Then I complained to my doctor and he prescribed flurazepam, which worked well initially but have started to lose its effectiveness. However, I did notice that between February 22nd and March 7th, my sleeping was better. I wasn't taking any pills except melatonin, and I would sleep anywhere between 6.5 to 8 hours at night. However, the sleep was still intermittent, even on what I considered to be good days, which bothered me. March 7th, I fell asleep at 10, woke up at midnight, fell back asleep quickly, and woke up at 3, but was unable to go back to sleep, which prompted me taking much more than recommended doses of flurazepam the next night to calm me down and sleep. I even mixed them with alcohol twice. Not proud of that. Anyway, last night I fell asleep 9 p.m. ish, woke up 11:30, fell back asleep quickly, and woke up again at 1:30 a.m. being unable to sleep. I even took 3 over-the-counter antihistamines, but I just laid there from 1:30 to 5 a.m. and nothing happened, no sleep. As you said in your previous comment, this could all be anxiety related, which I admit I do have a long history of anxiety, especially health anxiety, but I'm getting worried. It's been nearly 2 months, and apart from that Feb 22nd to March 7th window, my insomnia hasn't gotten any better. I don't have any other neurological symptoms, no ataxia, myoclonus, cognitive impairment, nothing. I even go to the gym on good days, and I am currently enrolled in an MBA program, so I think that's good evidence against the possibility of having sporadic fatal insomnia. I'm 24 years old, in great shape, regularly regularly exercise. I haven't gotten any checkup from my GP yet because my appointment is only April 1st, and then she will likely refer me to a sleep specialist. But I'm writing to you because my anxiety is through the roof, and I can't go that long without some sort of interaction with a professional. So my questions for you are: number one, is what I'm experiencing sporadic fatal insomnia, or could it possibly be? So let's pause there, and actually before we go over these questions, let me just share with you, Celine, or anybody else listening, what I am thinking. So I'm going to go back to this, and what I really want to point out was this. So when everything, like, kind of going way back when when all this started, Celine is writing that 1 a.m. going to bed at 1 a.m. was normal back then, and I don't know what time getting out of bed was normal back then, but we know that you had a pretty late, fairly late bedtime, which is not unusual. I'm just wanted to keep note of that. Now then, you say I have started to go to bed at 9 p.m. and this is classic, classic when people have trouble sleeping. A kind of a natural instinct to say, oh my gosh, I'm not sleeping well. I gotta get enough sleep. I'm gonna make sure I have enough time to sleep, and I'm gonna go to bed earlier. Now, what happens then typically always backfires. What happens is that instead of getting more sleep, you just kind of spend more time in bed tossing and turning, spend more time in bed thinking about your sleep, spend more time in bed like wishing you could sleep, which just makes the insomnia worse. So that's the first thing I wanted to point out. And the second kind of like overall, important insight that I think we can learn from what I've read so far is that the medications haven't solved the problem at all. The zopiclone kind of worked a little bit, then didn't work. Flurazepam, some help, but definitely not consistently. Melatonin maybe helped, etc. Over-the-counter medications, alcohol, nothing has helped, which shows us, and which kind of illustrates another super important insight, which is the only thing that can produce sleep and sleepiness is wakefulness. The only way we can become sleepy and sleep is really by staying awake. And when you hear this, you might first of all be like, what are you talking about? Like, how's that going to help me? Well, it will, and we'll get to that, later on. But two important insights for now are: one, trying to go to bed earlier, trying to spend more time in bed backfires, not a good strategy. Number two, nothing can produce sleep or sleepiness except like your own natural sleep drive. No drugs or anything else can do that. Okay, so that said, let's go to the question. So the first question out of, I think, 5, there might be more, is what I'm experiencing sporadic fatal insomnia, or could it possibly be? So for those of you who never heard of this, which I hope is like nearly everyone, because, fatal, so there are two conditions known as fatal insomnias. And the one of them is fatal familial insomnia, which is an autosomal dominant condition, which means that if you, let's say somebody has this condition and they have a child, then that child has like a 50% risk of getting it as well. And it is also like a neurological type condition similar to like Creutzfeldt-Jacobs or other prion diseases, and it leads to death, But the important thing with the fatal familial insomnia, extremely rare, but what I always want to point out is that if you don't have like a first degree relative or second degree relative who has had this, then it's virtually impossible that you have it. Okay, so that's fatal familial insomnia. And then we have sporadic fatal insomnia, which is a condition that, when I've reviewed literature on this, I found like 32 people that have had this condition worldwide ever in history. So, your risk of having this is like, I don't know what, like less than 1 in a billion or something like that. But people are very concerned about it. And here's the thing with the sporadic fatal insomnia, that most of those cases recorded with somebody has sporadic fatal insomnia, they don't have trouble sleeping. At least not initially. They complain more of like what Celine is describing here, like neurological problems. So I think it should really have been called sporadic fatal, like, ataxia or something like this. So basically, I want to say this, Celine, in everything I'm reading here, taking everything I'm reading here into consideration, including the fact that there is a history of anxiety, the fact that you don't have any neurological problems, I would say, in my kind of opinion, the risk of you having sporadic fatal insomnia is 0. Like, if I saw you in clinic, I wouldn't even consider it. Like, absolutely not. So, so that's all I'll answer with that. Number 2, is my scenario a common occurrence in your practice? In parentheses, waking up every 2 hours, hard time falling back asleep, etc. End parentheses. I freak out a lot because I'm under the impression that this is unique to me, and it would help to know that I'm not the only one with these issues if I'm not. I can totally help you there. This is super common, Celine. In fact, when you do studies, population-based studies, some typically 10 to 15% of people in any developed country has like serious insomnia problems, and like you may be kind of on the farther end of it, like maybe more severe, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if like 5% of the population has like severe insomnia just like you do. So yes, in my own practice, I see patients with exactly the same problems you have. all the time, all the time. So I really, I really hope that helps you. Number 3, do you think this is caused simply by anxiety? I do. I do think the anxiety is kind of like a root cause that's, keeping this going. But on top of the anxiety, what also feeds insomnia, and I think your insomnia, is the addition of kind of what I mentioned before, the addition of trying to spend more time in bed. That makes insomnia worse. And the other one is, and this is a hard one to kind of wrap your head around, but the other one is trying to sleep more. Like, the more we try to sleep, the more we think about sleep, the more preoccupied we are, the less we can sleep, And this kind of this is summarized in a term called sleep effort. So basically, an effort to sleep is a sleep effort. Sleep efforts always fail, whether that's taking a medication, or whether that's like trying to spend more time in bed, or whether it's like keeping the bedroom dark or cool or things like that. There are sleep efforts, they don't work. But do you think this is caused simply by anxiety? Short answer is yes. I think it's the anxiety is there. That's the root cause. But the sleep efforts and all the things I mentioned also make it worse. Number 4, if not anxiety or SFI, what else could be causing it? Well, we kind of covered that one already. So I'm going to go to number 5. Number 5, do you have any helpful CBT techniques to help me? I looked at some of your earlier vids, but there's so much information that I don't know where to start. Wow, yeah, no, I totally see that, because there are like 140 videos or something like that, which, by the way, short parenthesis here, I'm planning to make like a playlist of like maybe 5 or 6 like core videos that I can refer people to. But anyway, so answer this question, do you have any helpful CBT techniques to help me? Absolutely. I definitely think so. I think the core ones are the ones you do. And by the way, you could start actually by number 1. So my first video, Insomnia Insight number 1, is on bedtime restriction. And then I really think that one is really helpful. Number 5 is really helpful. That one talks about something called stimulus control. And if you go over number 1 and kind of do all the things I talk about here, then there's follow-up too. So there's kind of like a 2-week follow-up. That's Insomnia Insight number 14, and a 3-week follow-up, which is Insomnia Insight 21. So definitely look at those. But to go right here, right now, the key technique, the key CBT technique is called bedtime restriction, which really centers around like spending less time in bed, And the way I do it is I usually just ask people like, how much sleep do you think you need? And most people have an idea of that. Most people will say, I think I need 7 hours. I'm fine with 6 or something like that. So if people say like, I think I need 7 hours, then I'm usually like, okay, so let's start at 6.5 hours. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you for a wake up time, and they say, I want to get up at 6:30. That's cool. So you have to get up at 6:30 every single morning. Okay. No matter what. And then you cannot go to bed before midnight. Okay. No, even if you sleep at 9 or 10 or something like that, you can't go to bed before midnight. So you're only 6.5 hours in bed, and you do that. And in the first couple of nights are often very rocky. Second week it can be really tough, but usually after that things start falling into place, because you're sleepier when you go to bed, you start falling asleep, start spending time in bed, and then once that happens, you can relax these sleep times, you can go to bed a little earlier, etc., when you start to feel better. So that was that question. Now, I asked Celia if it was okay for me to make this video. He said absolutely, and I think there was another follow-up question. Here, no, there was not actually. It was just another comment. So, Celine, I hope this was helpful. I really feel that this probably was helpful, because I feel I could really answer most of the questions. So I'm hopeful you will find that as well. And if you have any follow-up questions, please send me another message. This was through Messenger, but mail or comments or any way is cool. And anybody else there with a question, never hesitate to send me a message, and email is always good, daniel@insomniainsight.co, or any other way you can find me. So with that said, we'll conclude here, and hope to have everyone back here very soon. Until then, bye-bye.